In this next project, we're going to start putting everything together, and we're going to be using our shape tools. We're going to be looking at using the pen tool to create more custom shapes. And so you're gonna choose one of these to do. You're gonna do either the female or the male. Yours will look slightly different. That's totally fine. Some of this we've already made. I'll explain that more in the video. And then once we get it to this point, we're gonna look at some more complex ways of doing coloring. So if you haven't already, go ahead, download the template file from Canvas. And what you should have when you open it up is this empty canvas to work with. I've put the just colors and skin tones that I used here. Of course, you can use your own. I've put a whole bunch of other ones in there for you if that's what you want to do. In our preset shapes, you don't have this rounded rectangle tool in here by default. I think we're going to add that in there just to make it simple. So at the bottom of your toolbar, you see these three dots. You're going to click on that, and you're going to scroll through here until you see rounded rectangle tool. And you're just going to drag it and hover it over your shapes. It'll highlight in blue, and then you can let go, and it will be in there. Now you can do this. You could try to do this by hand using the rectangle tool, but that'll be a little bit difficult. So now that this is in here, what I would do is select that. If we click one time on the canvas, then we can put in a very specific size, and what I would put in is 480 pixels by 472 pixels, and we're going to give it 200 pixels of a rounded corner. And this is the starting shape that you should get. And I'm going to go ahead and just give that a basic color. Now, as we go through this, I'm going to give you some tips on how the male face shape might be a little bit different. So again, you can see that it's maybe a little longer, little less rounded on the bottom part of the face. So this is going to be a little bit back and forth as you go through your design. But if you feel like you need to change something, you can do that now or do it later. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to switch to my pen tool, and I'm going to add an anchor point right in the middle at the bottom here, and just click and let go, and it makes that additional anchor point. What I'm going to do with this is make the chin, so I can just kind of drag this down. And so now I can, with this selected, in our properties panel, I can go ahead and just make that rounded, and it gives us that chin shape. And so I'm going to zoom in here, and we can kind of round that out a little bit. Alright, the next thing you might want to do is adjust the width of the chin a little bit. Again, you can do that with your direct selection tool, and if you zoom in, you'll want to do that. For the male face, you probably might want that a little wider. Again, as you go through, you'll be touching some things up and going back and forth as you add more elements to the design. But for now, that's a good starting point. And the next thing we're going to do is work on the neck. So I'm going to use my pen tool to do this. And I'm just going to kind of make this shape kind of like that. Alright, obviously this down here is not right, so that should tell us that we need to switch to our direct selection, or I'm sorry, our convert anchor point tool. So I'm just going to select that anchor point, and I'm going to click and hold on my pen tool, and select Anchor Point tool. Grab the handlebar and just move it. Okay, so there we go. We have our basic neck shape. You can give that a color just for now so you can see the difference there. And we're going to send it behind the face shape. And again, for the male face, you probably want a little bit wider neck. So it's really just up to you. Alright, so the next thing we're going to work on are the eyes. And we've already made our shapes for this. If you remember when we were working with the pen tool, we did this trace. So we're going to, you can just open that back up. You can grab these shapes. We're going to copy that. And we're just going to paste them right in here. And I'm just going to kind of move them off to the side for now. But with these shapes, we can make a whole bunch of stuff for our eyes. Alright, so I'm going to start with this shape. I'm going to give it a white fill color, and I'm just going to remove the stroke. And next I'm going to take my circle tool and just make a circle shape here. And go ahead and give it a color. Alright, once you get that set up, we're going to, you could either draw a second circle, or we can just copy and paste this in front. Oops. And resize that. And we're going to recolor that to black. We can take our circle tool next and just add some white highlights in here. And you just want a variety of sizes. I'm going to take this next shape, which is going to be our eyelash, and place that on top. Again, for you might need to resize some of these to make them fit good. You can always change the shape of your eyelash. If you look back at the male portrait, I obviously took off some of the more feminine eyelashes there. And next we're going to take this other shape here, and this is just going to be like a little shadow underneath the eye, and I'm going to change that to this dark color. Again, some of these things you might need to reshape. Alright, I'm going to make a copy of this shape and just rotate it. And again, I'm going to change this color a little lighter, put it on top, and we're going to have to resize this a little bit. Again, this is just kind of like the eyelid. There you go. All right, and the last part of this eye is going to be the eyebrow. If you can kind of guess as far as the angle of this for now, that would be helpful. At least give it a starting point. Again, I'm going to remove the stroke and give it a fill color of black. Actually, I take that back. I'm going to give it this other fill color. So what I would do is select the whole part of the eye and group that together. And kind of get it in place. Once you see it on the face, you're probably going to want to resize this. And same thing with your eyebrow. Alright, once you think you have it close, you can go ahead and select those two things. We're going to make a copy. And then if you right click, transform, reflect, that'll flip it. And we're just going to click OK. And there we go. Alright, for the nose, this is what we're going to attempt to do. And hopefully you're starting to figure out how you can make these shapes on your own. So what I see here is pen tool and a circle. So again, we can, and again, yours doesn't need to be exact. Just a couple clicks with our pen tool will get us a shape very close to that. And your circle tool, just gonna match that color. Alright, once you have the initial two shapes, you can select more than one shape just by holding the shift button down and clicking on both. Then we can make a copy and transform, reflect. So once you have the whole nose put together, I would recommend grouping that. And then you can resize it as needed, place it where you need it to be, elongate it. You know, you can do with it whatever you need it to do. But this is the general shape that we're going for the nose. Alright, for the mouth, I'm just going to kind of walk you through this. These are kind of the shapes that we'll need. We'll need some lips, the upper lip, lower lip, and this blue shape, it will be the back of the mouth. I just made it blue for now because I'm doing this off to the side. Eventually you'll want to change that to white. And then this other shape will go in here, and that'll be kind of like the shadow or the upper teeth there. And then we have these two crescent shapes just for the corner of the mouth. So those are the shapes that we're going to use to do this. I would use your pen tool to make these. Obviously the lips are on top, so those need to be a little neater, whereas these other shapes are going to be layered behind the lips, so they don't need to be as neat or accurate. And so that's why those look a little jagged. And these are just, again, more crescent shapes. And so go ahead, try putting that together on your own, and let's see what you come up with. Once you get it all together, we're going to group that and just move it on to the face. At this point, if you wanted to change that blue color, you could change that to white. And there we go. Now again, for the male face, this is another one. Probably want to do the lips a little bit differently. On a female face, you probably want maybe a darker red color for the lips. Maybe a little fuller lip for the bottom. For the men, maybe not so much. You can kind of play around with it, see what you think looks good. And with the nose, maybe a little bit bigger nose for a male face. Alright, next we're going to do the ears. So we can use our shape tools for this. I'm just going to do kind of an oval shape. I'm going to take my direct selection tool and just select this top anchor point, and I'm just going to kind of flatten that out a little bit. We can go ahead and give this a color, and I'm going to just rotate that. Alright, and from here we're going to copy this, and I'm going to do paste in front, which is Command F, and just kind of resize this. And so you can see what you're doing. We're going to change the color of that. And I'm going to do the same thing, copy, paste this in front, and change the color of that third shape. Alright, so here we go. There's, I don't know, we might play around with this, but close enough to a completed shape. We're going to want to send this to the back. And before we group it together, we want to maybe nudge some things around. Alright, so I want to just resize this a little bit. And that looks pretty good. When you're happy with it, you can go ahead and group it. And again, copy, transform, reflect. And just try to match it up as best you can. Alright, for the hair, what I recommend doing is creating a new layer and locking our main work here. The hair is going to go on top. And I brought in my other shapes here just so you can see what the end result is, what we want it to be. We're going to do this in separate shapes. Okay, maybe you could do this in 2 shapes. Maybe you could do it in 5. Right? As many as it takes is fine. You're just going to piece things together. So I'm just going to, again, come through, and with my pen tool, this is going to be best with that tool. There's no right or wrong way to do this because it's hair. And when you're done, a lot of times with the pen tool, you're going to come back and fix things with your direct selection tool. Alright, next I'm going to add the highlights, and so again with my pen tool, these do not need to be exact, but I'm going to make these little shapes. and then clean them up with your direct selection tool. Okay, once you have your highlights in, um, and again, you can make your hair as unique as you want it to be. But we have all this in this top layer, but we still want to get the eyebrows on top of it. So I'm going to go back and unlock this main work layer. Um, and notice how we could never send this to the front of the hair no matter what, because this hair is still in another layer. Um, so we're going to select the hair pieces, and we're going to put them back into this main work layer. So I'm just going to click on the square here and just drag it down, and now it's back into our main work layer. So now when I take this eyebrow and I want to bring that to the front, I can do that. So I'm going to do that for the eyebrows and the eyes and bring those to the front, and that looks a lot better. And at this point, if you feel like you need to reposition things, this is a good time to do that. And we're going to stop here after you're done with the hair. You're more than likely going to have to tweak things, so take your time, do that. Don't worry so much about colors right now, because in the next step of this, what we're going to do is add some more complex coloring to it.